Hey guys, here we go into a film study talking about why Golovkin was not able to knock out Danny Jacobs and Canelo, and why he was able to knock out Vanes Martirosyan. Now, a lot of people are kind of saying, like, it was a popular narrative on HBO's end saying that the reason was because Golovkin was being wild. He was being a wild man. He didn't have to worry about Martirosyan's power, they weren't dangerous, or this and that. But if you watch the beginning of the fight, you can definitely see the tentativeness of Golovkin as he's feeling Martirosyan out, right? And the most important thing about boxing is making sure that you don't do something against a professional fighter, someone who punches things every day. They train, like, that's one thing people don't understand. Like, when you're training to be a professional fighter, you are training to hurt people. That's what you do every day, right? So you have to make sure that when you train or when you fight, you do something in front of somebody that's training to hurt people, that you do it safely and intelligently. Now we're going to talk about some of the things that each of these fighters does that kind of stops them. And we're only going to do like first round analysis. I have more competent round breakdowns on my channel of both of these fights. The Golovkin one is more scoring than it is like tactics and stuff, but there are a lot of tactics involved. But Danny Jacobs had a game plan for this fight to take away Golovkin's jab. And part of it was his coach Virgil Hill, or Virgil Hunter, Andre Ward's coach, teaching him how to get under the jab so that he can body up with him kind of like Andre Ward does and kind of fight on the inside. And we're going to kind of go and talk about that. I'm going to show you some videos. But the first thing I want to show you, let me put this in slow-mo so that it doesn't get flagged. Or it has a less chance of getting flagged. Nah, you know what? I'll just fight it. Whatever, dude. Who cares? The first thing that you notice, look at Danny Jacobs' lead hand, right? He's controlling the space between him and Golovkin. And Golovkin's a smart enough fighter that he knows that he needs to touch that lead hand too. He can't let Danny Jacobs have control of that real estate in between them, because that means that Danny Jacobs' glove is so much closer to his face than his glove is to his. He's going to have a better chance to set up his punches and land punches as well, sneak punches in off of that control. But as you can see, Danny Jacobs controlling, Golovkin sticks his glove out, right? Golovkin feinting, whirling his glove around like a left hook. Right? That's actually the hope to set something up else later when he throws a left hook like that to get you to turn away from the left hook, and then he can open you up for a right hand, and I'll show you guys that little play right here. But again, Danny Jacobs feinting, and this is all to control Golovkin so that Golovkin can't just run in there like a wild man and throw punches like he wants to, right? Even though he doesn't want to do that. But it stops him from being able to set up his punches. And then again, you can see real quick, I'll go back here. Danny Jacobs moving to his left, feints him, right, and then starts moving again to his right while controlling him. Control, control, control. And then they jab each other, and then Golovkin resets, Danny Jacob resets, and moves off the line. Now he's jabbing with Golovkin. Now this is really important, right? Golovkin is picking up on the timing of Danny Jacobs' jab and jabbing with him at the same time, and you'll see where I go with that in a minute. But right there, this punch, and just real quick tangent, see how he just throws that left hook out there? That's not a real left hook, right? He's not really trying to land that. Like, he wants to, right? Like, it's great. That's gravy. But the idea is he was circling around on the ropes, and he was about to have his back against the rope, so he throws that hook to create space, right? To create space so that he can get off the ropes and find himself not out of position against Golovkin, right? And that's something that he doesn't do, I think, in the fourth round and when he gets knocked down. But that's why fighters throw those kind of punches. Like Erislandy Lara was famous for it for a long time. Roy Jones... that's not a real punch, right? Even though he was able to land it a few times. God, why do I keep... I should just never mention Jones's name ever again because people get so mad. There's such fanboys about it. But anyway, moving on. Controlling him, right? And now when Golovkin does look to set up his offense, because he hasn't been able to feint, he hasn't been able to probe, he hasn't really been able to read Jacobs because Jacobs has been controlling him, feinting him, he misses with this shot. The one that he was trying to set up earlier, where he circles out his lead hand, right, to get you to turn away from it because you think it's a hook, and then he throws his own right hand. But he misses it because he's not really able to set his punches up because Danny Jacobs is controlling him, right? Now here, right, we're Danny Jacobs controlling him, and then what happens when Golovkin doesn't respect the control? He gets jabbed at, right? A real punch. And Danny Jacobs is able to realize, oh, he's not countering me, right? And then Golovkin does go back to the counter again right there. right? Danny Jacobs controlling him as he circles around, control, right? Shoots a jab again, right? And now Danny Jacobs is like, what am I going to do with this jab? What am I going to do with this jab? It's going to allow him to set up his shots later. So what does Danny Jacobs do? He shoots that jab. He gets Golovkin to start jabbing with him, and he makes an adjustment. He feints the jab. Let's go back. He feints the jab and then knows Golovkin is going to shoot his jab, and he tries to slide under it so he can throw that combination to take away Golovkin's jab, because that's one of Golovkin's most important one of his most important weapons is his jab. And Danny Jacobs and Virgil Hunter's whole game plan for fighting is to take away their opponent's jabs, like against Kovalev, right? Slipping under the jab, but then Kovalev would put him in a headlock to kind of negate that kind of wrestling style, or that like kind of seemingly whatever you want to call it, whatever you can call it. But Golovkin here makes an adjustment, right? The same thing. He shoots that jab, and then Danny Jacobs tries to slide under it, but Golovkin takes a step back, and Golovkin tries to come over the top with that same thing. So Danny Jacobs has to make an adjustment, right? So now here he is, shooting the jab, boom, waiting for the counter jab. He kind of telegraphs what he's doing, right? So now Golovkin knows exactly what he's doing. He's trying to get him to come in, right? So Danny Jacobs has to make an adjustment in order to keep doing that. So he shoots the jab, moving on, feinting, right? Controlling Golovkin to keep Golovkin on the outside, controlling him. And what happens when he stops respecting the jabs? He has to eat one. Now here, Danny Jacobs does, this is brilliant. I love this from him. He feints low, right? Like he's going to try to get under the jab, like he did earlier, right? He feinted the, well, let's go back real quick. Sorry. So he shoots the jab, then he goes low, shoots the jab again, and then gives up, right? Goes low, shoots the jab, goes low, feinting that low, right? And then shoots a real jab and stays up, right? Now he feints low, comes up, shoots that jab, and Golovkin thinks that he's going to stay up because he did that with his last jab, and Danny Jacobs is able to trick him into doing it again. So once Golovkin had him figured out, in the first round, Danny Jacobs makes an adjustment to get that game plan back so that he can start getting these flurries, and it can make him look more active and more effective in the round because he's the one getting punches off. Because if you notice, like situations like this, Golovkin's not doing anything, right? Not a lot happens for the first. Actually, I have another clip at the beginning of this one that for some reason it didn't work. Whoops. Come on, you sucker. Don't do that. But anyway, for the first 30 seconds of the fight, Golovkin's kind of coming out, probing, feinting, trying to read Danny Jacobs, right? But he doesn't get any offense off, right? And that's part of the reason why people thought Danny Jacobs won the round or won the fight was because he was able to neutralize Golovkin with this feinting, this probing, and this controlling style. The only problem was that he wasn't actually effective either, right? But it's stuff like this, making adjustments, that stopped Golovkin from being effective. Now, the next fight that we're going to look at is the Canelo one. Let's see if I can find that video. Whoops. Get out of here, you. Not that one. Oh, man. Heh. Keep clicking on the wrong buttons. The Canelo one, right? This is a really interesting fight. If you watch Canelo, so Canelo has a tell in his style, right, where he leans on his front leg, and that's how he kind of sets his shot up, right, to kind of hide it, right? Lean on your front leg and then shoot a jab. If you do some film study on Canelo, he gives it away, but you're going to get to see Golovkin kind of take advantage of that, right? So watch Canelo lean on his front leg right here, right? And Golovkin immediately hard jab, right? Now he's going to skirt around, lean on his front leg, and now watch as he leans on his front leg how Golovkin brings his hands up, right? And then Canelo starts to lean on his front leg, and Canelo ducks down, right, to kind of slip a jab, right? Canelo leans on his front leg. Golovkin brings his hands up. Again, the same thing. Now he tries to shoot a shot off of that lean, right? Lean, and he expects Canelo to lean forward again, right? So he can shoot that jab. But Canelo is setting a trap for him, but Golovkin is able to kind of get some offense off of there, right? He doesn't land anything. That's not the point, though, right? But it's seeing that that's where Golovkin is with his ideas, right? Now because he has an idea of when Canelo is going to throw punches, so he wants to jab with Canelo and start setting his shots up off of that, right? But right here, you can see every time Canelo leans on his front leg, Golovkin shoots a jab at him. Jab. Leans on his front leg. Jab. Leans on his front leg. And then Golovkin also knows that when Canelo's leaning on that shot, that the jab is not going to reach, and that's the only punch that Canelo's going to throw, so he only waits for the next punch, right, in case there was a right hand there. So he's perfectly comfortable waiting for that shot, not even being worried about the jab. Or, yeah, Canelo leaning on the front, and then as soon as he leans forward, jab comes. He goes to do this little cute stuff, and Golovkin knows that because he's not leaning on the front of his foot, he's not going to throw punches because it's out of Canelo's rhythm. He always leans on his front before he initiates, so Golovkin knows he's able to throw punches there. Again, he leans forward, and then he leans back, and he knows that Canelo cannot throw punches off of his back foot when he's in that motion. Just so you know, on his front leg, that's when he's dangerous. He leans on his back leg when he's moving and walking, and Canelo attacks, or Golovkin attacks. And again, front leg, Golovkin jabs him. Front leg, Golovkin jabs him, right? And that's because of the way that Canelo moves when he's moving around the ring. You know, it's very common, like, problem, like in boxing when you're learning it, the way that you learn to move forward, right? And Canelo has that problem where he leans forward or steps forward and then drags his back foot, right? Rather than one motion, right? Boom, in and out, right? He moves and he transfers his weight, and you kind of get stuck there. And that's the timing that Golovkin is kind of picking apart right now, and why he's seemingly having so much success with his jab. He's not like super active, right? But again, that's not the point. The point is he knows where his offense is coming from, right? So he has to wait. He's waiting for those moments, right? Now, the reason that he's not able to knock Canelo out is because Canelo, just like Jacobs did, makes an adjustment, right? Now, right here, he's leaning on that front leg. Well, he's here, right? And he doesn't lean on his front leg here. He kind of breaks his rhythm, and he stands still in front of Golovkin to try to stop that timing from coming, right? And Golovkin shoots that jab anyway, and Canelo's able to counter him. Now, this next scene is beautiful boxing. This is Canelo making a masterful adjustment because he figures out what it is that Golovkin figured out, and he starts taking advantage of that. Now, there's a full breakdown on my channel about it, the first 4 rounds, talking about this timing, and it's only one aspect of the fight, but it's where 90% of all of the offense comes from in the fight is them battling over this, jockeying over this position. But Canelo leans forward, and oh god, I think I missed it. So he leans forward, so he's leaning on his front leg right here, right? And that's the signal for Golovkin to attack. So Golovkin shoots a right hand, and Canelo set a trap for it, and he pulls back and throws that uppercut. Just watch it one more time. It's beautiful. Front leg, and then he sets a trap off of it because he figures out what Golovkin is doing. Even though he misses the shot, that's not the point, right? The fact is he makes an adjustment that gives Golovkin pause, right? He doesn't allow Golovkin to take advantage of the intelligence that he's gathered throughout the fight so far, right? Beautiful boxing from Canelo. Now, the difference between them and Martirosyan is, number one, Martirosyan doesn't control the distance, right? There's going to be none of him controlling the distance. Whoops. Yeah. There's going to be none of him controlling the distance between him and Golovkin. And what Golovkin figures out in the first 5 seconds of the fight, 15 seconds, he shoots a jab, and then Martirosyan shoots a counter jab and tries to counter over the top, right? And then Martirosyan shoots another shot. But watch Golovkin jab, and then Golovkin jab, and then Martirosyan counter him, right? Shoots a jab, and then he counters him with another jab. And then he opens up with a combination, right? And now Golovkin starts probing at him with jabs, right? Then he shoots that little hook thing, right? Moves forward and knows that Martirosyan is going to shoot another jab at him. So he knows to move his head and get it out of the way. Now, in this scene, he shoots that jab, and he knows that Martirosyan is going to shoot another jab. So he just moves his head over a little bit and then shoots that right hand right over the top of that jab. 30 seconds into the round, and he's already timing and setting Martirosyan up. Again, same situation. He shoots that jab. Martirosyan shoots his own jab. So he shoots another one and tries to counter over the top with another right hand. Beautiful again. Shoots that jab. Understands that the counter jab is going to come back and then moves forward. So he's fighting the same way. He understands the patterns that his opponents are giving him, right? But the only difference is, well, we'll see. We'll see. Shoots the jab. Martirosyan comes back with another counter, and he gets away from it. You know, he's lucky that that one didn't land because he was waiting for a counter. He was ducking it, right? Shoots a jab. Ducks the counter, right? Because he knows it's coming. Shoots the jab, and then expects the counter and throws a right hand instead, right? And then he's able to break and get inside on Martirosyan because of the fact that Martirosyan no longer feels comfortable controlling the space with that counter jab, right? Because he knows he's getting countered too. So what does Martirosyan do to take that ability away from Golovkin, right? That's the next step, is understanding that Golovkin is fighting off of that timing, now making an adjustment so you can take it away. So Martirosyan starts shooting a 1-2 instead, right? And I left that clip in there. I don't know what this clip was in there for. Shoots that jab. Oh, yeah. So he shoots the jab and then rolls the counter jab, what should be a counter jab, and then comes up with the hook, right? Trying to set up another timing off of it. But this right here is really cute. Golovkin shows him that, when he gives him that little nod, right? Shoots that jab. And then off of the counter jab, Golovkin's only expecting the one shot and then gets hit with the two-piece, and Golovkin gives him that little nod like, yeah, you got me. Good job. You outthought me right there. Now, the beginning of the second round, the same thing, right? Watch Golovkin's tentativeness, right? He shoots the jab, and now he crumples back, right? He's expecting the counter. Shoots the jab and crumples the counter, right? Now, this is really fascinating. Watch when he comes forward right here, and he gets low at first, right? And it makes it look like he's going to go for a body shot with the jab, and Martirosyan tries to block it, right, and parry it, and Golovkin is able to counter him with the right hand, and then Martirosyan goes for the left hook, right? Really interesting stuff, and that's going to come into play later. But again, beautiful boxing. Shoots the jab. He knows the counter jab is coming. Shoots the jab. Knows the counter jab is coming. And walks him into that uppercut that likely would have dropped him if he wasn't holding on to right here. But again, shooting the jab. He understands that the counter is coming and starts playing with him. I love how he tries to hide it after by going like this, so he doesn't give Martirosyan the free knowledge, right? He tries to hide it with that little playfulness. But again, shoots that jab. Knows that the counter is coming. Goes for the uppercut. Shoots that jab, waits for the counter, shoots that jab, boom, beautiful. And then this is obviously the knockout. We'll actually go back over it. But again, he shoots the jab, expects that the counter is coming, and look at how many more jabs he shoots, right, at Martirosyan, waiting for Martirosyan to remove his left hand from his face, right? But he doesn't fall for it. What makes him fall for it? When he gets low for a second, right, and makes it look like it's going to be a body shot, and that triggers Martirosyan to throw that left hook, and that causes him to get hit by that right hand. Beautiful boxing from Golovkin, totally walking him into that shot, remembering that that's one of the triggers for Martirosyan to throw that left hook counter. And then after that, he probes him a bunch of times, throws that right hand, and just kind of knocks him out. He's already done the damage with that first right hand, where he gets low for a second, makes him think it's a body shot, and then is able to land that powerful right hand, and then in the fight with the subsequent combination. Anyway, the difference is Jacobs and Canelo, they're better fighters, right? Everyone knows that, right? That's the simple part. They're just better fighters. It's not that Golovkin doesn't want to just run out there and throw punches, right? Because it's not that that's what he's doing in this situation, right? He's already figured out the pattern for Martirosyan. He already figured out a way to get on the inside so that he can throw free punches at Martirosyan. And that's by baiting his jab out, and then also baiting the hook out by going to the body, or faking like he's going to go to the body so he can land his power shots. He's already figured it out, and that one just happens to hurt him, and then that allows him, once he's hurt, to go in full steam ahead and kind of land his punches. The difference between them, not just that they're better, but that Jacobs and Canelo were making adjustments throughout the whole fight. They weren't just fighting on the same level. They were elevating themselves and their strategy constantly throughout the fight. And that's why they made it to the final bell, is because they know how to make adjustments. They know how to change their game plan. Whereas Martirosyan learned real quick in the first round that he was being countered on his jab, right? When he threw that jab, Golovkin threw his jab, and then he threw a 1-2 instead of just throwing the one and landed the second punch. He understood that Golovkin was waiting for that and making adjustments and not just throwing the one jab. But unfortunately for Martirosyan, he was only making adjustments to his own offense, not to his defense, to compensate for the adjustments that Golovkin was making. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks, guys.